What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another Friday night with the undisputed, undefeated World Tag Team Champions of Interactive Sports Talk.
Tag Team Champions.
Y'all know how we do, man. Always every Friday night, live in real time. It's your boy, Stephen Boss, joined as always by my co-host, my Tag Team Champion co-host, the one and only.
𝐿
And together we are
The
Play
Callers.
So yeah, man, we got some big things to talk about for sure tonight, including the fact that we will be doing the NFC and AFC West previews. But we got to start with a little bit different tone tonight, man, because we had a couple passings since our last show. We didn't get a chance to talk about Vince Scully, legendary announcer. You know, I got a little personal connection on that one just because. You know, he's the one who made the call on the catch. Which, I mean, you know, all I have to say is the catch. We all know what it is. And of course, 11-time NBA champion and just all around difference maker, Bill Russell also passed away this past week. So cool, man. Your thoughts?
Two big losses, man. It's two powerhouses in the world of sports that we're going to be missing. Ben Scully was also known for a lot that he did in the world of professional baseball, a lot of calls there. And then Bill Russell, humanitarian person, champion, first black NBA coach. So just so many different things that those two gentlemen did. They'll both be greatly missed, but their accomplishments and what they did for their respective games and their respective fields, will be felt for a long time for sure.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to give a shout out, Durf and Dylan. Let's go.
Yes, sir.
That's how we do it, man. Nice way to transition back into a little good energy right there. You know what I'm saying? So, man, one thing we got to go ahead and kick off talking about is a couple of legal issues, right? Which, I mean, seems like a weird way to start a sports talk show, but Brittney Griner yesterday kind of took what hopefully is the next step in getting home. Was actually sentenced to 9 years in a Russian prison, which, I mean, do we even have to talk about the ridiculousness of that? I mean, 9 years for what she's being accused of is pretty ridiculous. But
Well,
I'll go ahead. I was about to ask your thoughts.
the big thing is, man, is be mindful when you're in a different environment.
Mhm.
It's kind of like when in Rome, do as the Romans. Always remember when you're in different places.
Yeah.
Something may be acceptable in one place, but not another. And she's someone who's played basketball over there for several years. I mean, as an American citizen, you say, for the little oils and things that she had, is it really that serious? She had a prescription for it, whatever. That's something that's fine in America. But you have to be careful overseas. And I think most people agree. Some just don't like because of some of the comments that she's made in the past, which she has the right to make in the United States because we do have freedom of speech. But the thing with her is, really, I feel like a political pawn. We spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of discussions talking about Brittney Griner and her situation, rather than some of the things that Russia's been doing, especially up against Ukraine. We don't even hear about that much anymore. It's still happening. But
Yeah.
there's so many other things that they've been able to do to kind of take the focus away from that. And I think this is one of those things. So, in my mind, stay woke with everyone. Like, watch it, understand. I kind of see it as it sucks that what happened to her. But when you're in a country where that can happen, you want to make sure you put yourself in the best position. She stated that it was an accident. I have reason to disbelieve her. But this is on her way leaving the country. So that means at some point she came into the country, more than likely with it. So it's just always be mindful, man. When you're overseas or you're in a different country, just be mindful of the differences in the rules and make sure that you act accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, the big thing is, I mean, we talked about it before. You know, I don't think either one of us are saying like, oh, she doesn't deserve any kind of punishment or whatever, because clearly you put yourself in a position you should have put yourself into. But at the same time, I I don't know exactly what their laws over there, but I'm going to assume that 9 years is pretty excessive regardless. So this is
You can
obviously
get 10
politically
years over
motivated.
there.
So it's obviously
You can get up to 10
politically
years.
motivated, but we'll see. We will see. So the other big uh, thing right now is Deshaun Watson. So just give people a quick rundown in case they've somehow missed some of this stuff. This past Monday, a decision was made by the arbitrator that Deshaun Watson was guilty of violating the personal conduct policy, and her recommendation, based on the closest thing she could find precedent wise that the NFL has done in the past, she recommended 6 games. The NFL and the NFLPA both had 3 days in which to appeal that decision. The NFLPA said they weren't going to. The NFL has decided to, and they're pushing for a indefinite suspension with a minimum of 1 year, which not surprising because that's exactly what they asked for previously. Now, Roger Goodell could have heard the appeal himself. He's, I think, trying to make it seem as though he's taking himself out of the equation by actually assigning it to someone else. But the person he assigned it to, you know what else case they actually heard? You know, other appeal they actually heard in the past? The 𝐲𝐿EA case. And we know how that turned out. Zeke ended up getting exactly what Roger Goodell wanted him to do. So that's kind of the quick version of what has happened, but I know you got some definite thoughts you want to share on this.
I'll keep it quick. I'll simply say the NFL initially said that they wouldn't appeal; they would just roll with whatever happened. Then they decided to, go and appeal it to try to get more games for Deshaun Watson. Um, I think what we're going to have is an issue of there was a recommended, basically what would be the suspension without an appeal. So based on the precedents that's been set, it's going to be hard, I think, for the NFL to present a case to this person to make them give more games when the initial ruling was 6 based on your own precedents that you set. So that's the thing. When you allow certain players, in this instance, I'm going to put it out there, the biggest hypocrite I've ever heard in Ben Roethlisberger, who got 6 games for his situation, we'll say, that's kind of been swept under the rug since then. That's what was used to say, hey, he should get 6 games. The arbitrator themselves, I feel like she may have personally felt that more happened. But again, in these situations, it's what can be proved. We don't live in Russia. We live in a country where you have to prove. You can't just feel a certain way. You can't think that something happened. You have to actually be able to prove it. And I don't think there's proof there, or he would be tried in a court of law. However you feel about him personally, however you feel about what he's done or what you believe he's done, it needs to be able to be proved. If it can't be proven, then how can you raise the suspension? And that's where I think you're going to have the issue. And I think Goodell knew if I try to go in and say, oh, I want the indefinite suspension, or I want a year, or I want the 12-game indefinite suspension, then you can apply for reinstatement, Deshaun Watson's team was going to go straight to court. They weren't going to live with that. So I think trying to put it in someone else's hands, maybe stack to get a little bit in his favor on Goodell's thought process.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if this ruling is not favorable for Deshaun Watson's camp, it's not going to be the end of it.
Yeah.
If this is a ruling that they are favorable with, then the NFL either has to drop it or they have to try to go further. My simple opinion, just let it go. The suspension is what it is. They're going to go another step. We're probably going to end up with something similar to what we initially had, because again, there's a burden of proof. There's a burden of what's already been done. And that's where I think the issue lies in, not how you feel about what he did or didn't do.
Yeah, the problem I think we're going to run into here is that ultimately the NFL can make this whatever they want it to be, right? Because that's how they wrote the CBA. That they can basically outline whatever punishment they feel is fair, and Roger Goodell is apparently is basically the appeals court, right? So at the end of the day, the NFL can do whatever they want, and even if this does go to court, I don't think any judge is going to go and tell the NFL, "Hey, your CBA is invalid, and I'm going to overrule you." So
Hmm.
I think at the end of the day, the NFL doesn't want this to go to court for multiple reasons. But at the same time, I think where they're scared right now is they're going back to the Ray Rice situation. And they're thinking, did we not do our due diligence? We know they only talked to like 5 people. I think they offered like 10 other people up or whatever, and like for some reason only like 4 or 5 of them got included in the arbitration. So they might be afraid, hey, what if something else comes out that we don't know about, right? And so I think that's where they're coming from. Ultimately, I think that they're probably going to try to go back and negotiate maybe a longer suspension with Deshaun Watson. He may go for that, he may not. But that's where I
Well,
think this is going to go.
Deshaun Watson's camp has already said they don't feel like he should be suspended at all. They're not going to negotiate for a longer suspension when you already have an offer on the table. The thing is, you don't have to go and invalidate the collective bargaining agreement to say that due to the fact that you have a precedent that's been set and there was a suspension doled out for a similar transgression, and then you want to go and more than double that transgression for another individual, you don't have to invalidate the collective bargaining agreement for a court to say, yeah, that's not fair and reasonable based on the precedents that's been set. So that's kind of where Deshaun Watson's team would go with it, not necessarily trying to devalue the actual CBA, but can't just arbitrarily decide, hey, for this person, we want it to be this, but for this person in the past, for the closest thing to it, it was this. There was an arbitrator, they ruled, they said the same thing that we're saying. Now the NFL is trying to go behind us and increase it. That's where they would have a leg to stand on.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see, man. It's going to definitely be interesting. What I can say for sure is that NFL is not going to drop this. They are definitely going to full headed go forward with this. I think that ultimately they're going to try to suspend him for more games. When they do, it's probably going to go to court. Uh, he's probably going to be allowed to play while that happens. So it's going to be interesting. The story is not going away anytime soon. That's my gut feeling. So, with that, man, I think it's that time. We're gonna hop on into the NFC West preview, and we got a special guest joining us tonight. So I'm gonna bring him on and allow him to introduce himself. Welcome.
What's up, boys?
So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, we see the Seahawks hat, right? So but like let the people know like what's your name and where can they find you at?
My name is in fact Dylan. I am part of the newly branded Durf and Dylan. We used to be on and off the field. If people are familiar with that, that's what we were for like almost 4 years, changing it up. Durf and Dylan. Now you can find us all on all the social medias at Durf and Dylan. Got a new show hitting either next week after. I haven't nailed it down yet. It's going to be Fans of the Weast, as in Patrick Starr. You know, I thought you said Weast. That's us. And it'll be a Buffalo Bills and Seattle Seahawks focused podcast. Since Durf is a Bills fan, I am in fact a Seahawks fan.
Nice. So real quick, man, just wanted to let people know, in case you haven't, heard the news, you see down here at the bottom the logo, NFL season, week 1, Tuesday night before the start of the season, be the very first episode of the NFL Matchup Madness, presented to you by Play Callers Sports Talk. And this gentleman, 2 spaces to my left over here, will be hosting that show, and we'll have a new co-host for that night because I'm just coming on as an expert, man. I'm just, I'm chilling. I'm just gonna be the resident 49ers expert on the show. I don't even want co-hosting duties that night. Don't be quoting me on expert, man. What's wrong with you? So yeah, man. Make sure y'all check that out because Dylan's actually gonna be our Seahawks representative on the show. So definitely looking forward to having you there, man.
All day, every day. Seahawks, baby.
So hoping that we were going to have a few other people be able to join us tonight. Didn't quite work out for the schedules. It's all good. So what we're going to do, man, is we're just going to talk about the entire NFC West. So you know what? I'm actually going to let you start off with your Seattle Seahawks. Talk to us about the expectations for 2022.
Low. Extremely low. Like bottom 3 team in the league low. I leading up to the season, everybody, I've talked to a lot of different people about the Seahawks, and it seems like as I've gone on and talking to people more and more about the Seahawks, it confuses me. It keeps confusing me because we still have like pretty much the same team, right? DK still there. Most of the offensive line is still roughly intact with a couple of additions through the draft, which are supposed to be good pieces, like our first-round draft pick supposed to be good, Charles Cross. Then you have Rashad Penny coming back still. You draft a guy who's supposed to be a stud running back in Kenneth Walker. You still have Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. You had Noah Fant as a tight end. It seems like there's so many pieces, and then you saw that the defense was getting better late last season, especially the pass rushers like Darrell Taylor and Alton Robinson. It's like, what? Why are we so down on the Seahawks only because they lost a regressing Russell Wilson and then an aging Bobby Wagner, who I don't want to talk anything bad about Bobby. He's amazing. I love the man dearly. But it's like you lose those guys, and now we're magically like one of the worst teams in the league? I guess we are. Like, I don't know. It seems weird when you word it like that. But at the end of the day, I don't see how they just, they rip off 10 wins. It just doesn't seem feasible, especially when you got Drew Lock and Geno Smith at the helm. I guess that's where most people turn to when they think, yeah, these guys probably aren't going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, as a Niners fan, one thing I see when I look at Seattle is that defense really last year struggled. Like you said, they did start to look a little bit better towards the end of the year, but you kind of have to like ask yourself, how sustainable is that? Like, is that something they're going to be able to continue to do, especially if the offense is struggling to move the ball, right? That's a big question mark in terms of that defense. Obviously, you have good receivers. And, like you said, the running game is there. Y'all actually did a really good job of building the offensive lineup, which I find so funny that the whole thing, or at least what we all assume the whole reason why Russell Wilson wanted to leave in the first place was because you refused to invest in the offensive line. And then you get rid of Russell Wilson and you invest in the offensive line.
Ironic, isn't it?
I'm like, why didn't you just do that in the first place? I mean, thank you for not doing it, but
Yeah, well, yeah. As a 49ers fan, you're welcome. Broncos fans, you're welcome. Seahawks fans, yeah, shove it. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much what Pete and John did to us.
Yeah. So yeah, it's it's interesting, but I do agree that I think the big question mark obviously is at quarterback, right? Because Russell Wilson, we talked about it on the show, always played well like half a season.
Yeah.
And then like he either started off slow and finished strong or started off strong and finished slow, right? There was no other way with Russell Wilson. But when he was playing well, like the things that he would actually bring to the field and the way he extended plays and made things happen, it won y'all a lot of games. And I think it's understandable if people question your ability to win games without that.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of, even just the smallest fraction of the ability he had on a bad day, I don't think either Drew or Geno bring to the table whatsoever. I don't see either one of them as strong scramblers. They can't extend plays. We even saw it during Russell Wilson's injury period last year for, I think it was 4 games. Geno comes in, and 2 out of the 4 games, he had a chance to go down the field and win the game. and he chokes both times, throwing interceptions. I mean, well, interception on one and then a fumble sack. I mean, it just shows you that he's far from clutch. Even if he can keep the game close, he's not going to be able to close it out. And Drew Lock, we watched forever, you know, I guess not forever, but, you know, it felt like forever for a Broncos fan, I'm sure. But to watch him struggle over there in Denver, even with weapons, you know, they still had good players over there. And then people see some Seahawks fans are like, well, now he has DK, he has Tyler, he has Noah Fant, he has all these pieces. Well, he had pieces in Denver too. Obviously, it's not them that's the problem; it's him.
Yeah.
So, Dylan, quick question for you: which guy would you rather have? Would you rather have Geno Smith, or would you rather have Drew Lock, or is it just it doesn't really matter?
I want Gardner Minshew because at least Minshew's fun, man. Like,
hey, man, you know, if Seattle comes with the right trade package, man, I think maybe a third might get him, man.
Man, I'll give him a third and Drew Lock or Geno for Gardner Minshew all day, man. But you know, but I guess between the two, I would rather they did start with Geno because at least he's been there. He was behind Russell Wilson. He knows generally the offense. You know, he's heading into the season. That's why he's leading a training camp because he knows what he's doing. He's done a couple of training camps now with the Seahawks. What, 3-4 years he's been there, maybe longer. He understands it. So if he starts out the year, at least the offense can kind of move, do something, I guess, whatever that may be. And then if Geno sucks, we're 0-5, and Drew's picking up the offense in practice, you know, watching some live stuff, then yeah, let's get him in there and see if he can turn some stuff around and we don't go 0-17. That'd be great. So let's see, maybe he has some kind of talent. But I mean, that's what I would see happening personally.
Well, you know, I try to do this as often as possible. So, you know, I'm offering up Jimmy Garoppolo to you for a second round pick. I would take a third, truthfully, but I have to tax you the division tax. So
that's fair. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I forget about Jimmy just because he is a 49er. I just, it's so weird if that happens.
Why would that be weird? You should be used to that by now. Pete Carroll like takes every ex-49er he can possibly get a hold of.
Yeah, and Bobby Wagner's a Ram. So I mean, interdivision trades are not you know, or I guess that wasn't a trade, that was free agency, but still in the division. I'm not against it, I guess, but at the end of the day, I just still don't think he probably is an improvement talent-wise, but it's not going to be enough to push them into playoff winning territory, you know. At that point, why are you giving up draft capital for, you know, no one wants to say it, but a rebuilding team? Why are you going to give up draft capital just to, you know, not do anything? I might as well just stick with what we got, take the good draft picks when the season's over, top 5 maybe, and just move on to next season.
Wait, man, somebody should let Pete Carroll know y'all are rebuilding.
Yeah, someone's got to tell him, man.
He didn't get the memo.
You know what he's going to find out? He's going to find out week 2 or 3 when he looks over there. It's like, oh man, things are not going that well.
Yeah. When you've been out first 3 weeks, you've been outscored 120-5. Like, yeah, maybe you're rebuilding.
So the next team in the division who finished third last year, I'm just in case you haven't figured out, I'm just going bottom to top. Is my Niners. And you know, it's kind of weird to think about the fact we finished third and ended up in the NFC Championship game. That doesn't usually happen. But I could sit here and talk about it. There's already a video on our page with me talking a lot about the 49ers 2020 season or 2022 season. So I want to actually hear from you guys, from an outside the division fan and also a inside the division fan. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the 49ers.
Go ahead, Dylan.
Okay. I didn't know which way you wanted to go. That's I don't know. It's one of those teams, you know, I've always looked at the 49ers as the team that's like, they should be winning. They have a very strong defense, a lot of key pieces in there that are pretty good. And then the offense as well, you know, the Trey Lance thing I'll get to in a second, but I mean, their running back group is absolutely stellar. Deebo Smith is coming back. George Kittle is a top 3 tight end in the league. I'll just leave it at top 3. I'm not going to rank anyone right here now. The team is good. there's really no reason that they should ever even be sniffing under 500. And like you said, they did get to the NFC Championship game. But there's just, for some reason, I don't know what's missing. Is it a spark? Is it coaching? This year, it's going to be the quarterback, but that's besides the point. I do not have much faith in Trey. I can't wait to hear your own opinion on your own quarterback. And maybe him going through an offseason as the actual QB1 will help him. But when he played in those few games last year when Jimmy G was down, holy God, that offense was dreadful. They couldn't move the ball at all. It looked like a team, maybe like a 0-16 Lions team, just with that offense. It was hard to watch. So I have not a lot of hope on that front. Defense, I feel like it always has the potential to be like top 8 in the league, just with the kind of players there are, especially on the defensive line.
Yeah, I'd say for me, definitely the defense is going to be considered a top 10 defense. We can say 8, we can say 10. We're really splitting hairs there. I think, as Dylan kind of alluded to, my big question is Trey Lance. We haven't seen him play consistently as of yet. A lot of times, your first year actually being a starter is a little difficult. You know, we've seen plenty of examples of that the last few years. So I think bringing in a new quarterback when you have a very solid running game, you have Brandon Ayuk, you have Deebo Samuel, you have one of the best tight ends in the NFL. So I think the big question is really Trey Lance. Is he going to be able to make the plays when he needs to for you guys to win? He will have to make plays. Defenses will set up to say Trey Lance is going to be the one to beat us. He will have to make plays. If he's not able to make those plays, then you stay where you are next year, probably don't make the playoffs. If he's able to be better than anticipated by most, then you have an opportunity to, be a wild card team again. It's all going to really rest on him. I think coaching is a part of it, but because you have Trey Lance, it's just a matter of your coaching saying, okay, this is the quarterback we have now. The ways we need to use him is this. A lot of times, too, coaches want your young quarterback to do more than they should. It's going to be a matter of your coach saying, we know what Trey can do. We've seen him through training camp. We've seen him through the offseason. Let's only work on trying to put in what we can of the offense that works for Trey and then build as he becomes more comfortable. But again, there will be where he'll have to make plays outside of what's scripted, outside of what's called. If he can in those situations, that puts you guys in a better situation. If he can't, even with that defense and that running game, if you can't get the throws, it's not going to be too nice this year.
So, a couple of things that pop out for me. So, one, when I look at the defense, I don't think anybody will argue the weak point on this defense for a couple of years now really has been the secondary. And they went out, they got Javarius Ward, who is a true number 1 corner. They might actually get Jason Verrett back healthy. Maybe he can actually stay healthy. It's ironic the 1 year he stayed healthy was 2020 when everybody else was hurt. So, Ambry Thomas got a lot of playing time last year. Mosley looks really good. So you actually have this secondary that's gone from a weakness to a strength. This defense is actually solid all 3 levels. So loving what I'm seeing for the defense. We went out, made some huge upgrades, invested in the special teams as well. Now, do I think that our special teams is going to suddenly become like a top 10 special teams? No. But remember that outside of Green Bay, we were like the worst team in the league in special teams last year. They were literally the only team worse. So we're going to be improved. When I look at the receiving core, as my co-host pointed out, not even concerned with that. And that's going to help Trey Lance tremendously because you have amazing talent that you can get the ball to. And Kyle Shanahan's going to do a good job of giving you easy throws. He's going to get those guys open. He's going to scheme them. He's going to make those throws easy for you. So he's going to help Trey Lance as much as he possibly can there. I think there's going to be some bumps in the road, just like with any young quarterback, right? It's going to happen. But this is a team that with not even as good of a defense, remember, actually beat the Vikings and the Packers both in the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing like 17 times total in both games. And then last year beat the Packers again in Green Bay on the frozen tundra, barely throwing the football. So this is a team that they don't need Trey Lance to go out there and be an MVP caliber player to win. They're going to lean on this running game. They're going to lean on that defense. Now, it's funny because you mentioned the 2 games that Trey Lance played last year. The Arizona game, 100% agree with you. Horrible. Looked like it was his first time playing an NFL football game, right? But the Houston game, the second half of that game, he actually played really well. He actually took a lot of the mistakes he was making in the first half, and he started playing well. Now, there's still little issues with this game, and apparently he had an injury that affected his throwing hand. They actually happened in the Arizona game, and it never completely healed. That's healed now. That's supposed to be a lot better. So we'll see. I do think he's a question mark, but he's actually not my biggest question mark. My biggest question mark is because we lost Alex Mack. And we have some unproven guys at the center position. For a while now, I've been saying, hey, we should go out and get J.C. Fretter. He's a guy who already knows the offense could step in right away and take that spot. But we're testing out the guys that are there. That's a question mark. Tomlinson left. We got Aaron Banks, who we drafted 2 years ago. He's, got good reports coming out of camp. But until you get out there in a real game, we don't know what he's going to look like. So that's a question mark. Right guard is still a question mark. So that's my concern, the interior of this offensive line. Young quarterback, question marks on the interior of the offensive line. If there's anything that concerns me, that's it. So that's what I think about my team this year. But in terms of Trey Lance, I'm excited, man. I think there's going to be some bumps on the road, but once he gets it, it's going to be a world of difference between a Jimmy G-led offense and a Trey Lance offense. Because Trey Lance is going to be able to make the deep throws. He's going to be able to hit guys on the sideline. All Jimmy could really do is throw short passes and dump it over the middle.
Well, he'd be a perfect Seahawks quarterback then.
Yeah. So moving on to the Arizona Cardinals, because I know we got our AFC West people waiting too. I don't want to keep them waiting too long here. Lots of drama going on out there in Arizona. What are your thoughts on them for the season?
Man, it's probably the same thoughts that I've been having, for the past however long Kyler's been there. They're going to pop off and probably go 8-1, 8-2 at the worst. And then they're going to fall off a cliff and finish the season maybe 9-8. That's just kind of what they do as a team. They don't know how to finish. And that's mainly because they don't have a leader on that team at all. Kyler Murray is the quietest quarterback in the world unless he's trying to get a contract, and then he's just crying all over the place, cuddling with his mommy, trying to just suck it on his thumb. The team just it has talent, obviously, with people like Hopkins and James Conner. He had a great time. Zach Ertz is there now. They have the talent. There's no leader. There's so much drama, they can't get through a full season because there's no one pushing them. They just kind of get sick of playing football. It seems like they're just I guess 8 wins is enough. Maybe we'll squeak out 1 or 2 more. And then you get to the playoffs, and then things like what happened against the Rams happen. They just get there, and they're just completely dumbfounded. What is football? How do you block someone? How do you throw a football? That was probably the worst football I've ever seen in the playoffs, at least in recent memory. The last time I saw a bad team in the playoffs was probably Denver, and maybe in a Super Bowl or something. That's probably the last time I remember a team playing that bad. But the Cardinals.
This is my prediction for the Cardinals this year. I think we are far enough in to really kind of have an idea of what this Cliff Kingsbury offense is going to look like at the NFL level, right? And we have a pretty good idea of what Kyler Murray is going to be as a quarterback. Now, there's obviously still room for growth in both, but I think this is the year where teams are going to make a lot of adjustments to what they've been doing, what they've actually been successful with. Everyone talks about them losing focus last year. I don't think they lost focus. I think that people started figuring out how to game plan against them. I think people finally figured out what to do to shut that offense down. And once people started taking away the things they wanted to do, they were in trouble. And I don't think that Kingsbury is a good enough coach to fix it. That's my thoughts. I think they've got talent over there, but it's very similar to what I've said for the last couple of years about Dallas. I don't care how much talent is there. Your coaching staff sucks.
It's not the first time we've seen an air raid offensive college coach fail in the NFL. It's not the first time, and it sure as hell won't be the last.
Yeah. So cool.
So
any thoughts that you have not already shared on the Cardinals?
Oh yeah. So it's very simple. You don't have DeAndre Hopkins for 6 games, so you're in trouble the first 6 games of the season. Period. Hollywood Brown has now been arrested, so you could be without him for who knows how long as well. Zach Ertz is going to be very important to you. That's the case. You did lose Christian Kirk, who is the reason everybody's getting overpaid at wide receiver. So thank you, Jacksonville. And I think that Kyler Murray's starting to kind of look like that guy that has to turn the corner and say, you know what, I got to put my big boy britches on and play ball the whole season, or my team's not going to be good. You're the quarterback. Why are you not a leader? You're not a rookie. You're not a second-year player. Why are you not a leader on the team? Maybe not the leader, but why are you not a leader? Why are you not a catalyst for the offense being better? You got the air raid. I get it. But you have a guy that should be able to now call audibles, make quick reads, get the ball to the 2 guys who can make plays in better situations. We see that happen at the beginning of the season. Like you said, Dylan, they start off 7-3. Kyler Murray, candidate. By 10, we're not talking about him anymore. So they have to figure out a way to stay consistent. They have not been consistent since he's been there, and Kingsbury's been there with him. So it could be both. It could be just Kingsbury. It could be, just him. We don't know. But what we do know is that if it continues the way it is, there needs to be changes. And the easiest person to replace is the head coach.
And so that brings us to the final team, the defending Super Bowl champions and NFC West champions, the LA Rams. So big news came out on the Rams today. Matthew Stafford is dealing with a weird elbow pain. This is actually more similar to what MLB players get. And it definitely, if you listen to the comments on it, sounds like they're trying to downplay it a little bit, that they are actually a little bit concerned about it. But this is a team that has a lot of talent. I mean, they did lose some pieces. Von Miller, I think, was a big loss for them. Obviously, not be able to get OBJ back, at least not at the beginning of the year, hurts them. They lost Robert Woods, but they did replace him with Allen Robinson. So overall, this is a very talented team. But we did, say last year that they got a little bit lucky, right? They stayed healthy because this is a team that doesn't have a lot of depth. A couple of injuries could really derail this team very quickly. So what are your thoughts, Dylan, on the Rams this season? Do you think they can repeat, or do you think it was just one-off?
I really want to see how the Matthew Stafford thing develops, because that could be interesting if they try to push him in practice. If they just send him to a specialist and get this figured out ASAP. He should not be throwing another football. That should be what they're thinking. But I've kind of been on the train that the NFC overall is a pretty weak conference. I mean, if you can get past the the Packers, which, the Packers in the playoffs isn't nothing too special, and then you get past the Bucks, I mean, you're honestly pretty fine. Unless there's some dark horse surprise candidate this year, the Rams should be in the Super Bowl. Now, who they be facing when they get there, that could end up being a problem because there's so many good teams in the AFC, whether it's the Bills, the Chiefs get back there somehow, the Bengals make it back, Chargers. It could be literally any team in the AFC almost. But I don't think, losing OBJ is not that big a deal because you do have Allen Robinson. Robert Woods, same, both of them had injuries. Who knows how healthy they'd be coming back. You still have Van Jefferson, who I think is an underrated piece of the offense. Tyler Higbee is awesome. Kendall Blanton even showed up at points in the playoffs last year. He showed potential. Adding Bobby Wagner is just stupid. I mean, that's just not even fair. I don't think the team needed Von Miller. I think it's okay to lose him. Let someone younger take his place, and then Von Miller can resume his role as the elder on a defense and go help the young defense of the Bills. I think it's a good place for him. We've talked about that before on our show. So I think there's no problem in seeing the Rams back in the Super Bowl. That's my immediate pick. If I was a betting man, which I sometimes am, it depends on my mood, how much I've been drinking, I'd be going to the casino and I'd be dropping like $100 on the Rams to make the Super Bowl. Maybe not win it. We'll see, but to be back, 100%. No reason to believe they shouldn't be.
Okay. What do you?
I for one think it was a fluke, complete fluke. Matthew Stafford did not win in that game. He had pedestrian at best Super Bowl. He never had a great game in the playoffs. He made some timely throws at times. I won't pretend like he did nothing, but if you watch the Super Bowl, you know Matthew Stafford did not win that game. So to me, you can't consistently win if you don't have a quarterback that can make great plays and can have those games where he can carry the team. I've never seen that from Matthew Stafford. Now all of a sudden he's a Hall of Famer because he was the quarterback for a Super Bowl winning team. Trent Dilfer was the quarterback for a Super Bowl winning team. Brad Johnson was the quarterback for a Super Bowl winning team. I will not accept that as the reason that he should be a Hall of Fame. Joe Flacco was the quarterback for a Super Bowl winning team.
I do second
I think
that.
For me,
there's no chance in hell he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. No chance.
Exactly. He's got stats, but that was because he was on a trash team. He was always behind and he was throwing more than most other people. I don't think he's a complete garbage quarterback, but I think he's mid-tier at best. And I don't think that they're going to have enough to be able to repeat. I don't see them getting back to the championship game. I think we're going to see somebody get there who we didn't expect, just like we didn't expect the Rams last year. I don't think Green Bay is going to do it because there's not enough solid weapons now with the departure of what most people argue is the best wide receiver in the league, Devontae Adams. I don't think Tampa Bay is going to get there just like they didn't last year. So I think we'll see someone new be the person. And they may beat the Rams in the NFC Championship game, but I think we're going to see a different team from the NFC in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, well, I don't want you sleeping on the Packers now. They might have lost Devontae Adams, but they added Sammy Watkins. So, I mean, basically just like 1A and 1B there. So
you definitely sound like a Green Bay Packers fan there.
Let's go, Sammy. All right.
Real quick, so we can go ahead and move over to the AFC here. I wanted to just point this out about the Rams. This is a team that I don't even think would have made it to the Super Bowl last year if not for a couple of really lucky breaks. So first of all, it's no coincidence in my mind that the one time in the playoffs that people were actually allowed to hit Tom Brady and not get penalties just happened to be the same week that he came out in an interview and admitted that the NFL lets him get away with stuff. That's not a coincidence. So had Tom Brady not opened his mouth that week, the Rams would have got flags like everybody else, and they wouldn't even have won that game. And then it would have been Tom Brady versus Jimmy Garoppolo would have been a storyline we would have heard all week long. So then you go to the NFC Championship game. Listen, as a 49ers fan, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, we got this in the bag. Like, I've seen this scenario a million times. 2-minute drill, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go right down the field. He's going to get the ball to Kittle, Deebo, IU. They're going to go do their thing. And we're going to beat the Rams for like the 7th straight time. And then Aaron Donald happened. Not Matthew Stafford, but Aaron Donald.
It's always that.
Super Bowl, same thing. Guess what? Cincinnati had them until some dude named Aaron Donald showed up and ended the game. So, no, you know what? I mean, they still got Aaron Donald, so they're still going to be in it. They're going to be a playoff team. I'm actually predicting them to win the NFC West. But I don't see them making it back to the Super Bowl. I don't think they have the depth, and I don't think they can do it. I think they got lucky to get that far. And hey, kudos to them. They took advantage of the one opportunity they got. But I don't think
the surprise team will be the Seahawks. You never know.
Well, it depends on what you define by surprise, because I'm actually thinking the Arizona Cardinals might finish dead last in the division. So
okay, so
you
I guess
consider that a
by
surprise.
surprise, I'm thinking maybe like 6-11 instead of
Okay.
5-12.
That's fair, man. That's fair. Well, Dylan, man, we appreciate you coming on tonight, man, talking a little NFC West with us. Make sure that y'all tune in. Is it Durf and Dylan? Is that the name of the show? Am I getting that correct? All right, bet.
Yeah, Durf
And
and Dylan's is our handle for everything, and then we're gonna be dropping like shows with we got the fans of the West. We're thinking about doing something for golf come the springtime. Yeah, just follow us and just join the journey. It's gonna be an absolute train wreck, but it's gonna be fun.
all right. And of course, the one place you can for sure find Dylan, Tuesday nights, NFL matchup madness. So appreciate you coming on, man. We'll be seeing you around.
Thanks for the invite, guys.
No problem.
What's going on, fellas? Appreciate y'all's patience, man. I know we had y'all waiting just a little bit longer than we had planned, so appreciate that. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Should I go first then, I guess? My name's Cedric Green. I'm out in Denver, Colorado, representing the Denver Broncos. I'm here on behalf of Shady Sports Network. We've been growing, man. Watch us grow. I'm just a really avid fan who loves sports, man. I love the Broncos, so that's what I do. I talk to Broncos. We cover all types of things. We cover, other football leagues as well as other teams, other sports. So we just we're sports, man. Shady Sports Network. That's what we do. And thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to beat that because I'm the other Broncos rep here. Unfortunately, not from Denver, just a little bit south on 25 in Colorado Springs. And this is actually my first gig doing anything like this. So hoping to get into media school really soon to help, kind of build everything up. So don't really have anything to hype as far as where y'all can find me yet. But once I do, I'll definitely let the people know.
Well, man,
Heck yeah.
I know my co-host over here, when he was putting together this concept, he went after the best of the best. So clearly he saw something in you. So I have faith in you already. I ain't even had to hear you yet. I already got faith in you because I know that he ain't gonna bring in no scrubs, man. So real quick. So Dylan, says let's see what these boys got. Goddamn Broncos. So if y'all want to go ahead and just thank him for Russell Wilson before he has to sign off.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Before he gets mad and signs off for that.
I think he left as soon as he saw the two Broncos guys on.
Yeah, I heard those comments about the Broncos playoff games, but it's cool. We won't talk about the 1 yard line.
So I got to ask y'all, man, before we dive into the actual individual teams here, I think right now, honestly, we got a little bit of a competition for the team that I think most people felt the division that most people felt were the best last year, the NFC West, and what a lot of people think might be the best division this year, the AFC West. What are y'all thoughts on that?
I mean, I thought the AFC West was pretty good last year as well. We came within a tie or, a win of having 3 teams in the playoffs. But, yeah, man, the AFC West is just like you see, over in LA, you got the Chargers, you got Herbert clicking, and they're starting to come on. I mean, but it's the Chargers, we'll see what they do. You got the Raiders. They just picked up what's his name from Green Bay. So I mean, I don't know. You just look at the AFC West, you kind of feels like it's our time. You know what I'm saying? It's our time to step up and show, that, hey man, we got some good football teams out here and we're all ready to represent. They expanded the playoffs and we could all make it, honestly.
Yeah, definitely a division that made some huge jumps in the offseason this year. It's going to be a very competitive division.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's let's start with you. Talk to us about the Broncos.
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like all offseason, we're all ready to see what the Broncos are about. All offseason, it's been where's Russell going? You know, where's he speaking at? You know, who's the new owner going to be? Who just joined the ownership group? It's been so much outside of football. And then, you know, we're in training camp. I mean, even with training camp, you know, I feel like I'm just hearing like complaints, like, you know, they're going one day on, one day off, you know, like they're not even really out there practicing hard. So, I mean, we all know the Broncos picked up on the offseason. I feel like we're anxious to see what's going to happen, but also like, I don't know, man. I feel like Green Bay has always started a bit slow, at least the past 2-3 seasons. You know, Aaron Rodgers is having to come out in a press conference and say, "Don't worry, y'all, we got this," before they turn it on. And you know, it feels like it's kind of headed that direction with the Broncos. Like we're going to come out a little slower than need to.
Okay. What about you, Ian?
I mean, honestly, he's got the same mentality I do. I'm stupid excited to see how everything goes, especially with Randy Gregory getting ready to come off the PUP list. So he's supposed to be ready to go for week 1. You know, we've always got that good running back battle between Gordon and Javonte. So, I mean, I would expect each of them to probably get good 900,000. But, I mean, like what Cedric was saying, you know, it's a new quarterback. It's a new coach. It's practically a new GM and new ownership. It could take a little bit of time for it to blend, but once it absolutely does, kind of like what Aaron Rodgers says, RELAX will be perfectly fine.
Okay. What are your concerns with this team?
Man, well, I mean, you know, especially with Tim Patrick and then who else was it? Tyreek Cleveland. That kind of sucks, especially Tim Patrick. I mean, he's been Mr. Reliable the past few seasons playing for Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. We were all anxious to see him, you know, run a route for Russell Wilson. So definitely, you know, I feel like our receiver room, man, you know, Cortland, he's been in the league for 5 years. He's our most seasoned receiver. We don't have any vets in the receiver room, you know, that's been there longer than that. Judy, he's on his 3rd season, didn't really play much last season. You know, he looked decent his 1st season, but you know, I'm really anxious to see how they're gonna click. Although, you know, like Ian was saying, you know, we got a great running back room, so hopefully the battle between Javonte and Gordon, you know, like definitely like evens things out. But like it's gonna be interesting to see like which receiver is like, yeah, I'm gonna step up. This is my room. I'm ready to go. And then on the other side, you know, on a D line, man, you know, you got, I mean, Chubb had a good season his 1st season. He was definitely on track to break records, but it's just been injuries since then. Randy Gregory, you know, he's due to come back, you know, for the 1st week, but I mean, he hasn't even played a full season yet, you know. So, I mean, it's just going to be, I feel like, yeah, like our D line and our receivers, in my opinion, is definitely some concerns.
Yeah, I will just say real quick, man. You talking about your D line? You know, I don't know how you guys feel about this. Maybe it's a little bit of an underappreciated move, but you went and got DJ Jones from us, and you know, last year I felt like that was a really big weakness of yours was stopping the middle. Run game was killing you up the middle, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not excited about DJ Jones, you should be, because the dude is an absolute beast when it comes to stuff in the run.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, man, there's nothing like seeing a big 300+ pound dude break him in the backfield and get him a sack every now and then too, man. So y'all got that to look forward to. Ian looks like he likes the idea of that. He's like, yes.
Well, I mean, it'll be nice to have pressure up front because, I mean, you know, I know we're going to eventually get to that team a little bit east out in Kansas City, but I'm tired of this 13-game losing streak. So it'd be really nice to have that interior lineman push, kind of like what we had back in the 2015-2016 season, you know, with Pot Roast being able to fill up that line. So, you know, I've heard a lot of good things about Jones. He's probably one of the more underrated signings, I personally think, of the entire free agency period. So it definitely filled a need that we absolutely needed to address. because I was starting to have questions about what we were going to look at defensively, but that fills a huge gap. And if he can stay healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if we start holding a lot of teams to under 100 yards again, like we used to back in the day.
Yeah. So what about you, Cole? Any thoughts on the Broncos there, man?
These two gentlemen have eloquently covered the Broncos. There's no need for us to go further. Yeah.
Well, man, I mean, if you want to jump in here and ask some questions, man, feel free. I know I prepared to roll solo this week, so I'm not trying to steal all your spotlight or anything, just
my spotlight's never stolen, sir. So, gentlemen, in your division, who do you think is going to be the biggest challenge based on what you see from the rosters right now?
I mean, man, I feel like the AFC West looking like the SEC right now. Like every team, every game is going to be a challenge. And for the fact, I mean, our first game against the Raiders is week 4. But still, that's still a good few games in. I feel like by the time we really get into like the AFC West, we're going to have a few games under our belt. We're really going to have an idea of who we are as a team, and the same, vice versa. So I feel like they're all going to be battles. And with, most of them being later in the season, it's going to come down to the wire, man. I could see splitting with every team, but definitely like you always look at the Chiefs. Obviously, we have that 13 game, losing streak, that we're about to break. But at the same time, though, man, like you look at our games against the Chiefs too. 2 seasons ago, we were one tip pass, out of Cortland Sutton's fingertips from beating them. I think last season we came fairly close as well too. So the games have been a lot closer than, what the records may say. So I honestly, like, I just think AFC West is going to watch football everything.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely what he said. I mean, you look at the entire division, everybody's pretty much on a level playing field now. I mean, LA, we may have had their number these last few seasons, but they're absolutely no slouch, especially with, adding Khalil Mack on the defensive side. That's never a good sign. Our biggest question mark was a quarterback. We went and got Russell Wilson. The Raiders, they really needed that big-time receiver. They went out and got Devontae. So it's not like Kansas City is going to be able to run away with this, especially with Tyreek being shipped out to Miami. So, I mean, like Cedric said, it wouldn't shock me if we go 1-1 with all 3 teams, and it will literally come down to probably out-of-conference record to see who actually gets the home field and which other 3 are probably going to represent the wild card.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
So, speaking of wild cards, kind of is a good transition to our next team on the list. A team that just missed out on getting one of those wild cards, the LA Chargers. So, what are your thoughts on those? I guess this could be my first question for you. For you, give me your general thoughts. How do you feel actually about now his name just escaped me, their quarterback, Herbert?
Justin Herbert.
Yeah. How do you feel about Herbert? Overrated or does he deserve the hype?
Properly rated. 100% properly rated. I mean, the problems with the Chargers is that they've always really had to rely more on the defense more than anything. So it's really going to come down to Herbert's arm. And I mean, the kid threw 3,600 yards or 38 touchdowns last season. The kid can absolutely play out of his mind. He's in the right system. It's just a matter of can the team put it all together. So, I mean, if I wanted a young stud, I'd probably want Josh Allen 1 and probably Justin Herbert 2. He's absolutely the real deal.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with them. Definitely, like he's been proven that he belongs since day one. Definitely, and been doing nothing but evolving. I feel like you did see a bit of lackadaisical play from him last season. They had a couple of stupid losses for sure that kind of threw them off track. But really, I think, man, we're about to be we're about to see a more focused and intent, Herbert out there this season coming up, and I definitely think he is like the real deal.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit opposite. I mean, I do think he's a good quarterback, and I think there is some talent there. But going even back to college, he hasn't won anything really yet. And I think it's very interesting because most of the time we're pretty critical about quarterbacks when they haven't won anything yet. But for some reason, this dude is like being like put up there as the next great quarterback, despite the fact that he hasn't even got this team to the playoffs yet. I see my co-host agrees with me here.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I mean, what did Pat Mahomes win in college? I feel like we're seeing a transition. I'm sorry, you're gonna say something cool?
Oh no, go ahead and finish.
No, I feel like we're seeing a transition. The transition you see like every decade or every few decades or so, where like the NFL is evolving to where it's more younger players out there than there's older players. So it's more closer to the college game relative to it. And I mean, I just see him growing like every game, man. I just see him come out there. He plays calm. He plays confident, dude. He's like, he's doing really good. I mean, granted, he has some really good receivers to throw to, Keenan Allen. Austin Eckler just started killing it out of nowhere, and like, I mean, I would probably take Joe Burrow over Herbert, but I would definitely think about it, I don't know. I feel like he's pretty legit. Like, I think it's only doing nothing but helping him playing. He's been playing, against Pat Mahomes and Derek Carr. I mean, Derek Carr has been Mr. Consistent, since he took over as starter for the Raiders, and then we all know Pat Mahomes. So I feel like Herbert's like proven that he can sling it with the best of those guys too. And he has to grow. It's only his third season as well, so I can kind of see what you're saying, but I don't know. I like Herbert. I really do.
I mean, I would just remind you that, Holmes really didn't start getting hyped up until he actually took his team to the playoffs in his first season as a starter.
I feel like there's a little bit of hype. They
a little bit, but not. But he didn't get the Herbert treatment until he actually made the playoffs.
True. So but I mean, at the same time, this is the Chargers. The Chargers that's what they do, man. You get happy for them to, just looking the part because they'll let you down if you think any otherwise. I mean, that's how they've been since Phillip Rivers.
You look at Josh Allen. You look at a guy like Jalen Hurts, the quarterback for the Eagles. You look at a guy like Pat Mahomes. You look at several different other guys I could name. You had to win before you started to get, he's going to be a really good quarterback. We see this great future for him. Somehow Justin Herbert came in, put up really good stats, as you said, with great weapons around him, but he doesn't win anything. He doesn't get his team to the playoffs. And while fans of the Chargers and fans of Justin Herbert like to say, the coaching, all the this, all the that, there have been times on the field where he could have won games and he did not. So my thing is, you're great at stats. I'll give you that. But do you have the win gene, or are you just another guy that's going to come in the league and have all these statistical records, but when it comes time to actually win, you never can put the team on your back? Until he does that, until he can get this team in the playoffs and get a playoff win, why are we giving him so much grace at this time? No other quarterback would get this if they had the stats that he had and still not won anything. Like, he hasn't even made it to the playoffs. And my thing is, why can't we treat him like everyone else? Your stats are cute, but you're not getting it done in critical situations. Do that, then we can start to say that you're this and you're that. Right now, you're just a guy that a fancy car, a fancy Ferrari with a Toyota Tundra engine.
Not the Toyota Tundra engine, man. Come on.
I did go there. I did go there.
Yeah,
I mean, Toyotas last forever.
They do last forever, but they're never very impressive. They're always steady.
I look forward to Justin Herbert's 25-year overrated career.
Exactly. How
Right.
many AFC championships did Phillip Rivers win, or how many playoff games did Phillip Rivers win?
Did he take him to the playoffs?
I don't know.
I know he did. He's taken him to the playoffs multiple times. Until Justin
He's-
Herbert can at least match what Phillip Rivers does, why is he getting more love?
That's true. I feel
That's
you.
the thing.
I like the guy. I like the guy. I see potential in him, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I see potential to put up a
I
lot
see
of
the
stats.
growth.
Yeah, the
Gotta win,
potential
though.
is there, but the hype is a little much. That's I think
Way
kind
too
of what
much,
both of
in
us
my
are saying.
opinion.
Yeah, the potential is there. He could eventually live up to the hype. I just don't understand it yet. So I was just kind of curious. Interdivision. So in looking at the rest of that team, I mean, obviously you already mentioned the receivers. You already mentioned the running game with Austin Eckler. What do you see as the other strengths on this team, and what are the weaknesses?
You
You
want
want
to go
first?
You can
Yeah,
go
sure,
for it.
I'll go. Yeah, I
You guys
mean,
are so polite.
obviously, well, I mean, we try. It helps when we're the same team. So, no, I mean, honestly, that Chargers defense, I mean, you could really look at any level. I mean, you start with Joey Bosa. I mean, he's always been a menace to society, really, ever since he joined the league. And then you get Khalil Mack, who was with the Raiders, went to Chicago, did what he needed to do. And so, I mean, it's not like he's going to back off any. And then you add that Derwin James is coming back. You add that Chris Harris Jr., who was our guy, is their slot corner. So he's going to know our guys fairly well. Granted, not many of our Super Bowl 50 team is still there, but he still knows enough about the Denver ways, I can see that causing an issue. So, I mean, you just put all that together. They've got depth across the board. So, but again, they've always had this weird sensation of falling apart when it absolutely matters most. So it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, if I had to pick between those four, I would definitely say Khalil Mack's probably the biggest X factor on that defense, because now you add him to the edge opposite of Bosa, you're going to have to protect your quarterback no matter who you're playing against, and you're lucky to maybe have 2.5, 3 seconds to get the ball out.
So we actually do have a Chargers fan that's going to join us just momentarily. So cool. We'd love to hear your thoughts before we actually get him on.
You know what, man? Let's just bring him on. We
Well,
didn't let these guys talk.
I can't yet, sir, because he like left the camera and left the room. So.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. Actually,
Yeah, I
he's
guess.
back, so you lucked out.
Yeah, let's let him go. Let's let him give us. Let's let Jake tell us about the Chargers.
Well, I'll tell you something about it. Things have been brewing up with the LA Chargers lately, and the fact of off-season to the draft and to free agency, this team has been stacking up, and they are literally trying to make a run to, first of all, break the 3 consecutive season drought of being in the playoffs. They're trying to break that curse and get themselves in. Year 2 for Brandon Staley as a head coach. We know with the coaching woes, it's been a problem with them. But this Chargers team is stacked and ready. And from what I've been told in the training camp, this defense has been gelling very quickly than anticipated. So this gives positive hopes that once Derwin James's contract negotiation is situated, he'll be back out onto the field, leading the charge with the Chargers, and hopefully getting this team back into the playoffs once again.
Yeah, I think that the defense is really it's the strong suit of this team. I mean, obviously the offense can put up some numbers, but that defense is stacked.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
It's absolutely stacked. And the fact that, you add in a mixture of young talent with old veterans that, still have at least a couple of years of playing. Kyle Van Noy was a surprise to me of the fact that the Chargers even afforded him at a great price. I think you're going to see a much better improved season from Kenneth Murray, even though he had a season of injuries last year and the year before. But I think this year with Kyle Van Noy, it's going to take him out of that comfort zone and really start to work to the best of his potentials. And we'll start to see Kenneth Murray have some great productive numbers. Year 2 for Asante Samuel Jr. as well. I do expect him to take more of the man-to-man coverage roles. Now with the newly acquired J.C. Jackson on a 5-year deal, that it's going to really bring the best of this corners and the safeties together, because not only can they do very well on zone coverages, but I know the problems have been man-to-man coverages. You cannot blow up your one-on-one matchups. You got to be better and you got to be strong at it. And I think we'll see a better improvement from there. The front line, after last year being last in the league on running defense, this is much, much better than what last year gave us, with the fact of Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson. And I think one ace in the hole that has been a part of Brandon Staley's defense since the Rams in 2020 is Morgan Fox. I think that kid's going to really be a huge force for the defense for the Chargers, and to really stop the run games of like, for instance, the situational ones like the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Texans, several other teams that they've played against that they should have won a lot of those matchups. But unfortunately, the Cowboys was undisciplined football with that many penalties, and the rest of them, they just let the opposing rush just walk all over them.
Well, it sounded like you started to say something.
Yeah, let's say, so Jake, we talked a little bit earlier about Justin Herbert. A couple of us feel like he's a little overrated. A couple of us feel like he's rated about even. I'd like to hear what you think, as well as your thoughts on the Broncos, since we did cover them before you were able to hop on.
My thoughts on the Denver Broncos is this. Since the retirement of Peyton Manning, they have gone through quarterback after quarterback after quarterback until we got to 2022, where they found Russell Wilson. The fact that they transferred through from Trevor Siemian to Brock Osweiler to Drew Lock to several quarterbacks, they have not filled that void at the most important position in the NFL in the last few years since their Super Bowl victory in 2015. And I think the Broncos, I think they'll definitely improve in many areas because, one, they've always been known to have a really good offensive line that plays very good situational football. They know how to protect their quarterbacks from both the sides. And even if they get some times where they slip up in the interior side, they still find a way to correct themselves during the situations in the game. But I think the Broncos, I honestly would not shy away from them because the fact of you have Russ in the division now. The other one that I think of too is not only just the offensive juggernaut with Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, but Javonte Williams getting majority of the carries. That's going to be really interesting to watch on that run game because they went from other running backs from Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, but I do think Javonte Williams is their true number one running back. Defensively, this is what was very scary for us, especially for Chargers and other teams in the AFC West, is how that corner and safeties are stacked at with Patrick Surtain, Justin Simmons. Now, they did lose Kyle Fuller, but in the end, they still got a couple of different corners that they could utilize. But it's not easy playing on that high altitude either. That's what's always been the biggest advantage for Denver Broncos, is just that high elevation alone and playing in it. It's very challenging, but they are known to be better teams situationally when it comes to, you need a pass rush, you need a man-to-man coverage to win those battles too, and especially stopping every option that the quarterback could possibly throw to. That's why I think Denver, I don't brush them away that easily. I think that's going to definitely be competition right there.
And your thoughts on Herbert?
My thoughts on Justin Herbert, and I told people this, we've seen the first two seasons of what Herbert can do. We saw the rookie season, Justin Herbert, who took us by surprise. And luckily, you don't wish this on anybody. And again, I really felt for the situation with Tyrod Taylor and how that went down. But it did open the gate for us to introduce us to Justin Herbert and what he's truly about. I mean, we've seen bits and pieces of him in Oregon and what he's capable of doing, from the Senior Bowl game to the Rose Bowl, and how he was able to defeat Wisconsin in that game. But I think this year, because everybody is back. The same similar offenses there with newly acquired Gerald Everett at tight end. And also one of their newest drafted Texas A&M running backs, Isaiah Spiller. We're going to see the best of this offense this year, but I think this year is MVP year for Justin Herbert because he's going to correct everything that he had mistakes on from last season and even the season before, and he's really going to master his craft. This kid is smart, 4.0 biology major student, knows how to take care of his body, knows how to correct some of his mistakes. So I think, honestly, with all these quarterbacks in this division, they got to watch out for an MVP caliber year from Justin Herbert this year.
Okay.
Sounds like we've been outvoted, man.
Where's the thing, man? I mean, are we really going to fault the fan for the team for saying he expects a big year out of this young quarterback? I mean, come on. I say the same thing. You say the same thing. Come on.
Well, I mean, to me, like, I'm all about optimism. I'm very, very much about optimism. But I mean, it's anybody's game in this division. We all know that it's up for grabs and not as easy as people think it is. But if you look at the rest of the AFC, that's what I get excited about. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, several other. I mean, the AFC is like you could ask for every single quarterback in the AFC, and they got it. And that's where I think, it's going to be exciting to watch this season. But, I mean, as far as everybody stands out, we know what Patrick Mahomes is capable of. We know Russell Wilson's a champion. Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, they're all rising stars, but I think we're going to see the biggest year out of Josh Allen also. I think it's just three quarterbacks at an MVP race between those three, Mahomes, Allen, and Herbert. So, but yeah, I mean, not just from looking from a fan standpoint, but as a lot of optimism in what I see from film and situational play. The way that the last game of the season played out, that was a message saying we are definitely going to be better next year. And this is where this is the year to prove it.
So moving on to the another team, the Raiders. They're now Las Vegas Raiders. That's like so hard to get used to saying, right? It's like saying LA Chargers. I just can't get used to it.
Honestly, I live in Vegas and I have to deal with those haters all around here. So I'm a rare lucky breed being a Charger fan.
I can relate. I'm a Florida State fan, and my wife went to University of Florida, and I lived in Gainesville for 4 years, so I get it.
Wait,
man.
Listen, we'll definitely bring you back on college football season. We'll have a conversation between me, you, and this other poor sap over here.
Go
all I
Gators.
gotta say is, hold on, how did you end up a Florida State fan and a 49er fan? That y'all realize they're completely intercontinental, right? How does that work, Steve? Come on.
Listen, man, you can't ask someone when they're like 6 and 7 years old to justify their thinking. Okay, it's just it just is what it is, man. The important thing is I've stuck with them even when they were terrible. That's what's important. So. So I want to hear you guys' thoughts on the Raiders, on the additions that they made. What are you expecting out of them this year?
I think honestly, hearing a lot of the coverages of the Las Vegas Raiders, I mean, with a newly team that's finally here in the NFL market with Las Vegas, I can honestly say, being born and raised here my entire life, Vegas knows how to do it well. Anytime you hear about Las Vegas, they know how to put on a party, they know how to put on a show, and they also know how to welcome a team that comes here. And I mean, me being a diehard Golden Knights fan, I love going to the games. I think it's very energetic. But as far as Allegiant Stadium, it doesn't disappoint. But I think part of this reason is that they're changing a lot of the culture of what the Raiders were used to seeing, the Rebels of the NFL, now in a new location. And a new money market. So this is now allowing them to go and get star players. The fact that they were able to steal away Davante Adams is beyond my mind. And the Raiders have long been wanting a true number one wide receiver. They hadn't had it since Amari Cooper. But I do like watching Hunter Renfrow and how situational he is. And he's just lethal in any part of the field that he's on. You can't leave him open for certain plays. But I think Davante Adams now being their true number one, it's what Derek Carr has been wanting. I think they'll both definitely succeed, especially watching them from Florida State 10 years ago. But in year 9 and in the 6th head coach that Derek Carr has gone through now in his career, I'm interested to see how Josh McDaniels really mans this Raiders team, especially from the Broncos. You know what the years that it brought for Josh McDaniels the last time he was a head coach. Did not have a whole lot of success, went back to New England and had to study a lot more from Bill Belichick and the rest of how does he master the offense. I think this is a totally different chapter for him this year. This Raiders team, with the way that they're stacked at it, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, and Derek Carr, I can exceed this Raiders team scoring 25-plus points in each game. I mean, with an offense like that, you can't go wrong. The defensive side of the football, they do have some guys that can get in your face, put pressure on you. I mean, Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, that's a great tandem for them up on the front line. But I'm interested to see the second year of Trayvon Merrick and several others in that backfield because, I mean, honestly, I like Trayvon Mullen, and I like to troll on him each time that a deep ball is thrown his way and he gets burnt deep downfield no matter who the quarterback is. But I think there's going to be vast improvements in the corners position. But this Raiders team, I don't know specifically if they'll really have a bigger jump than what last year brought them to getting into the playoffs. But there is hope for this team that now that they got in the playoffs last year, they want to take it to at least another level, and it's going to be a step-by-step process for them. So it'll be interesting to see how this new look Raiders are going to look.
Okay. So, what do our Bronco fans do? And sorry for just sticking you between two Broncos fans, Jay. Sorry.
Yeah, man.
It is entertaining, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't follow the Raiders much, but I do know like Darren Waller was a big deal. He hurt us bad last year. It feels like him and Derek Carr have a really good connection. So, I mean, I'm anxious to see how that evolves if he's able to, you know, take the next step with Devontae Adams on the outside now, because, I mean, you better have some good linebackers on the inside, you know, to keep an eye on him if you're going to try to put your best corner out, you know, on Adams. And then you got Hunter Renfrow too. So it's like, you know, they have a few weapons, but, you know, like Jake was saying, you know, like I don't see the Raiders being much more than they were last year. Like, if anything, just maybe I see them starting at that plateau that they were at the end of the season, you know. And I mean, it's Josh McDaniels. I want to know what convinced him to take this coaching job, you know. So it's obviously something that he saw. Maybe it's just, you know, being in Vegas, you know, you're going to get a lot more perks in your contract, but it's going to be interesting to see them because it's kind of like, you know, same but different, because it's essentially the same team. They have a few small, you know, I guess Adams is a big addition. You know, they have a few additions, but nothing, you know, groundbreaking. And they're coming with a new coach. So it'll be interesting to see if he tries to build off all, you know, what they had, or if he's trying to create something entirely new out there. Because I know when Chucky first came in, our second, you know, came back, he wanted to get rid of Derek Carr, you know, but he couldn't get, you know, another quarterback to replace him. So it'll be interesting to see how they work together as a team and how they look going forward. I expect to see a few changes, you know, throughout the season that will be big moves. But that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, one thing you just hit on that I think is a good point is you said you wonder why McDaniel took this job, and Jake wanted to make a small correction what you said, because you said, you know, the one other time that he was a head coach. Technically, he's been a head coach 2 other times. Just one of those times he decided not to even show up to work for the first day. So
exactly, and
at least he actually showed up to work.
Can we not talk about that? Thank you.
Yeah,
Moving on.
You know, he was going to be taking over the Patriots, so I don't know. That's interesting to me to see what convinced him to finally be like, okay, well, let me try it again, you know. And I mean, from how it's been
somebody's not very
sounding,
happy their offensive coordinator is when it became a head coach because of that. That's why.
Moving on. So the way I feel about the Raiders, man, I think there's been a lot of disrespect for Derek Carr, and he's a better quarterback than a lot of people have given him credit for. I just want to say that now that he has a solid number one receiver, he still has a great tight end. He has a good guy that learned that he can be that guy we needed last year in Hunter Renfrow. This team is going to be very good. To you, Ian.
Yeah. And just a couple things I wanted to throw in, you know, because, I mean, Cedric, I'm sure you saw too, the McDaniels there was very interesting, to put it lightly, back when we had Orton and everything. So, I mean, I think, you know, him going back to New England, you know, learning underneath Belichick a little bit longer, you know, I think in the long run it will help. But I also think there's the part of me that says that there's still a little bit of a snake tendency in him, because he did originally accept the Indianapolis job.
Yeah.
And then, like you were saying, he decided not to show up. I'm sorry. Why wouldn't you want to show up with probably the best offensive line, and you're sitting there with Jonathan Taylor? How are you not wanting to take advantage of that? But, you know, maybe that's just me. But, I mean, Vegas, God, I still want to say Oakland, but Vegas, you know, I mean, I definitely think offensively they're definitely going to be a lot better, especially with the addition of Devontae. He's going to be that deep threat that, like everybody's been saying, Derek's been missing. Renfro's going to be the perfect slot guy for it. Zay Adams is still there. I mean, Amir Abdullah is still going to be doing fantastic. And it was really weird last night because I was watching the Hall of Fame game and actually seeing Josh Jacobs take reps in the preseason. So it kind of makes me wonder if there might be a little more tension in that running back room that we just may not be seeing there. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was the Chandler Jones situation. Yeah, he might be great, but he had one great game last year. The first game of the year, he had 5 sacks. The other 16 games, he only had 5 more sacks the rest of the way. So is it going to be another one and done type situation, or are we going to see it to where he was more in Arizona when he was turning out 12 and 13 sack seasons?
Yeah, you just hit on it, but you said that we maybe something in the running back room we're not seeing, and I'm going to argue that I think we are seeing it.
Yeah, they did mention
Abdullah. They went and drafted a running back, and then they actually giving the dude snaps in preseason, and they try to come. Oh, you know, I believe in getting running backs hit. What?
And I do remember too that they declined Josh Jacobs' 5th year. So this leads me to believe that, yeah, that running back room is very open. So it's kind of more of a make it or break it year for Josh Jacobs. And I think that's probably why we're seeing that happen, why he's taking the reps in preseason.
And I'm not really clear on why. I mean, I get that you basically were just throwing like any like random shifty white dude that you could find out there running back in New England, but you have a really good running back. Why are you trying to get rid of him? I don't understand.
I think part of it would have been injuries, I believe, because I know he did have a bunch of riddled injuries last year. And that was when they had to now bring in a couple running backs like Kenyon Drake and a few others. And then, of course, this offseason, bringing in Amir Abdullah and drafting another one, which they're actually, from what I was told, they're very high on the draft pick running back that they ended up picking up. That went to the same school as the other top running back there as well. So the both of them as their tandems, when we watched them in college, they were pretty impressive. So, you know, you either took one or the other, but I think this one's going to be very interesting for the Raiders.
So, and if no one has any other thoughts on the Raiders, I'll just say, you know, my thing in looking at this team is I feel like they did make some upgrades in a couple of places. And Devontae Adams was obviously a huge add for them. But at least on the offensive side of the ball, it's not as if this offense wasn't good last year. So my question is, how much more explosive are they actually going to be? And that's kind of the thing. Is like, yes, you wouldn't have added talent, but is that talent really going to give you a lot more? I mean, we might be talking about an extra touchdown a game, it's not like all of a sudden you're going to go out and score 21 points a game because you added a couple other guys. There's still only so many plays that you're going to make, and it's not like this offense was struggling last year.
Yeah, and just to kind of finish up on the Raiders here, I was just going to say, especially with them, unfortunately, Jake beating your Chargers there, and probably one of the best game 256s or whatever the heck you want to call it that I've seen in a long time. They're going to be going up against the second best teams of a lot of different divisions now. So, it does truly make me wonder, are they going to be able to sustain this success, or are they going to fall? And, call me a bold predictor here. I would say the Raiders would probably finish last in the AFC West if I had to pick it right now. I'd put them probably last, at worst 9-8 though. I don't see any team being under 500.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree
Good
with you
point.
there.
So moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs. So obviously the big loss there was Tyreek Hill getting traded off. So what do y'all think happens to this offense? How big of an impact do you really think that losing Tyreek Hill is going to be?
I mean, I think it's a huge impact. We all, you got to use half your team to cover him. At any moment he could take a pitch, or he could take a deep pass to the end zone. It doesn't even matter. So I feel like that definitely allows defenses to be able to focus a little bit more on Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. And that allows defenses to be able to cover a little bit more up the middle to cover Travis Kelce. I mean, we saw the Chiefs start slow last season, even with Tyreek Hill. It just feels, I mean, in my opinion, the Chiefs are like the Golden State Warriors almost. It feels they haven't won the championships as many yet. They were on track for that, but I think their allure is just kind of worn off though. Everybody else has kind of risen to their level. You hear the talks of Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, even Justin Herbert. You hear the talks of all these other quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, that are doing their thing. I just feel like it seems as if everything else is, like I was saying, is caught up to the Chiefs. And with them losing Tyreek Hill, they definitely have to revisit how they're going to be doing things. I mean, you have oh man, I forget his name. That other speedy receiver they have. You have him out there for your deep routes, but Hartman, but he's not the route runner that Tyreek Hill was. I just feel like Pat Mahomes isn't going to have, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds back there in the backfield to dance around, knowing that his receiver is going to get open. At least that's what I feel. Maybe, I mean, Andy Reid's a friggin' genius. The guy is definitely one of the best to do it. So they're going to have their game plan on point, but I just feel like they're definitely not the juggernaut that they were maybe 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Cedric on this one because, this Chiefs team, they've won the AFC West title 6 years in a row. And I know a lot of us, as far as Raider, Bronco, Charger fans, is we're all just enough is enough. We want to fight for the division, and that's why it's the best division in football. I do think that this is going to be a different look Chiefs team with the fact of Tyreek Hill getting open in the deep ball throws, not to mention being one of the best route runners. That does hurt a little of their offense, but they do have Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think what they're going to try to do is play a little bit more of situational play rather than just the specialty type like they've been running for the last 6 years. And I think I think the biggest one too is that if you ain't got somebody up on Travis Kelce, they can still be dangerous. And I think that's the note for all the opposing defenses in the division that they have to work on the most. Patrick Mahomes, in the first couple of games, we did notice a lot of mechanical issues, and some of them thought, was this the start of, the declining phase? Not drastically, but he's human. I think in that regard, Patrick Mahomes was going to find a way to really master his craft, really fix up a few things that he messed up on in the first beginning of the season. And then sure enough, they went on a tear. They were looking like the Chiefs like they were before. And I think, honestly, Kansas City, you can't brush them off very easily. You have to play situational football against them. You got to beat them at their game, put a lot more pressure up on them. I mean, even speaking from a Charger standpoint, I was very happy in the first time they faced them in Arrowhead that they played to their strengths, and which is exactly how you got to play against this Kansas City team. You got to play against their strengths. I think they'll still stay consistent, but it may not be the same similar team as we've been used to seeing 6 years in a row. Defensively, they did sign Carlos Dunlap. They did try to at least keep themselves steady for the long run. We know Tyrann Mathieu no longer there in their safety secondary, now with a part of New Orleans. But they did draft a rookie from Washington, Trent McDuffie, who I am curious to see how he plays on man-to-man and zone coverages as well for Kansas City. So this different look at defense is going to be interesting. I don't know, outside of Chris Jones and Carlos Dunlap, if there's any other big-time pass rushers. Now, I know they have their big linebacker, but outside of that, not sure exactly who else could really step forward and really be a productive on defense for Kansas City. So I think there are some holes that teams are going to take advantage of when they face them. But it's, as I've said before, you play to their strengths, they are going to struggle. And that's where you really want to win those key points in the game. So, but I do see this being a competition with Kansas City. But again, it's hard to really get past Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. They'll find ways. They always do on their offense. But, I think Kansas City, they'll still stick to being the tough team that they are. But maybe somewhere there might be some holes that other teams are going to find and take advantage of.
I mean, he said it best. So it's pretty much the Kansas City of old, just with fresher bodies at this point. I mean, kind of what everybody else has said. Tyreek Hill being gone is obviously the largest X factor coming out of Kansas City this entire offseason. So, and I mean, it's not like those first-round draft picks from Miami are going to be that high anyway, because from what Miami's done with their team in the offseason, they've done pretty well themselves. But a lot of Tyreek's game has also been a lot of backyard ball, I've noticed. It's been a lot of, that jet chip wasp or whatever that they ran. That was completely improvised. There's no way you could tell me he knew exactly just to sit right there. And, kind of going back to what Jake was saying, yeah, you're taking away his weapon. So, yes, that's going to center a lot around Kelsey. So it's just going to be a very interesting and a little bit different offense. I don't think it's going to be as completely high-flying as it has been in the past, simply because there is no straight deep burner. I mean, MVS, he was never that big of a guy with speed or receptions up in Green Bay. And Juju, to be fair, he's always been a 2. So, I mean, you look at Kansas City's offense, I see a bunch of 2s, but I don't see a true 1. So you take that away from Patrick Mahomes, how is that actually going to work for them? So it's just a matter of, okay, is he going to be able to improvise? And, going back to what Jake was saying on defense, there are going to be holes because, yeah, you signed Trent McDuffie in the draft. You have Chris Jones, but beyond that, who do you got? I mean, honestly, every other team in the AFC loaded up and got better on the offensive side of the ball. So everybody was expecting Kansas City to be like, okay, our offense is good. Let's focus on defense. And I can't name you who else they've got. And that's a huge problem, especially with the entire league catching up with them, especially in the division alone. Mm-hmm. There's going to be problems there in Kansas City. There absolutely is. That slow start may actually end up being a long-term burn at this point. Unless I see something magical happen, I have no reason to doubt that they will fall a little bit.
I will say that a concern, if I'm Kansas City fan, my big concern is if this team, if the wide receiving group kind of struggles a little bit and they have to depend more on that running game. And I'm going to allow my co-host to explain to you why you do not want an Andy Reid an Andy Reid-led team needing to depend on them to run the ball well consistently? Because he would
So
know.
we're going to start off real quick. We're going to talk about the guys that Andy Reid has brought into the organization as running backs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's not a bad player. He's not a guy that's been able to stay healthy. We all know the best ability is availability in the NFL. You look behind him, there's always a rotating cast of guys. So this year right now is Ronald Jones, who didn't get much playing time at all in Tampa Bay. And then behind him, Jerick McKinnon. So you're looking at a guy that was injured a lot last year. You're looking at a guy who couldn't get on the field in Tampa Bay, a team that ran the ball a lot with an advanced age Tom Brady. And then you're looking at a guy who some injury history had some great games, great plays. But Andy Reid is a guy that is not going to use his running backs as they should be used. He's going to call plays that are going to make you say, why would you continue to do that? If you actually watch Kansas City now, and I have watched some of their games, when you see them start to try to assert the run game, plays they call are horrible. And that's because he's a guy that likes that West Coast offense. He likes to try to use backs out of the backfield who catch, which I don't really see either one of these three guys really being that type of back. So you have a certain type of offense that you want to run, but you get backs that don't even actually fit what you want to do. He's not going to run consistently. He's going to – there's a lot that Patrick Mahomes has covered up for Andy Reid. There's a lot that having Tyreek Hill covered up for Andy Reid and Travis Kelce. When you remove Tyreek from the situation, that deep threat is really gone. So now people can play the run and play a guy like Juju, who they looks like they're going to have in the slot, at least for now. Then that means you're going to put MVS on one side. You know, it's just not a lineup that's going to allow Kelce to see one-on-one coverage. If you're playing against this team next year and you're not doubling Travis Kelce, your defensive coordinator should be fired after the game because there isn't anyone else. You know, he's the one, and all those other wide receivers are twos or threes.
Yep.
So if you want to acknowledge anybody wide receiver there, you acknowledge Travis Kelce because he's really the number one wide receiver, especially now. But it's going to be difficult with how Andy Reid has done. And believe me, as a long-suffering Eagles fan, I was through the Andy Reid no Super Bowl 5 championship game scenario. He does not do well in big games. When you have a quarterback, a tight end, and a wide receiver that can cover some of those weaknesses, it works fine. When you don't have those guys, they can't control the clock. That's the other thing. They can't control the clock. They have to go down and score because they can't control the clock. And as you guys have said, the defense is not great. Mm-hmm. That's the problem that Andy Reid-led teams are going to have, and it's going to show this year more than it has in the past.
I knew for a fact, especially when you explained that, I was like, yeah, that's a Philly fan. Because isn't that just strange considering Andy Reid has coached with Deuce Staley and Brian Westbrook and LaShawn McCoy and then having Jamal Charles and Kareem Hunt, and here we are with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, it's just so strange to me to just consider the running back classes that he's had from Philly and Kansas City. It's like, oh my God, it makes a lot of sense now.
I was going to say,
no wonder the dude's only won one Super Bowl, right?
I was going to say it's hard to mess up a talent like Westbrook, but to be fair, I can't really say that you're a sad Eagles fan when you actually have a ring in the last 5 years, my friend.
Right.
Just going to throw that one out there. You can't really be that upset.
Now, and I will keep in mind. I will keep in mind with you, Cool, because you have to realize it. In my case scenario, I'm in a division where I'm literally in the same seat that you were once in. We are literally the Philadelphia Eagles of the AFC West. And this is why that our time has to come at some point soon. That's because Charger fans have long awaited it. I've been a fan since I was 7 years old, and just to have that feeling of a team that missed it several times from the 80s of Dan Fouts and the Air Coryell offense to the 1 year we get our asses handed to by San Francisco, 49-26 and 29. And then to lose it on a 14-2 season in LT's best season of his career ever. And like, honestly, it's even part reasons why I became a Patriot hater, because we can't get past New England every year. So, and then we have to deal with our division twice a year and having to deal with Kansas City. And it's just like all the pressure's on our shoulders. And it's like, I'm waiting for that one taste of the Lombardi trophy at some point soon.
Dang, Jake. I feel bad now, man. I feel bad for you now, man. I have a softer spot for them now that you put it that way, man.
I mean, think about it. We dealt with Fouts that never got himself a championship. We had Drew Brees that eventually he got traded and won one with New Orleans, which I was very happy of the fact he was able to rebuild that culture and make it the way they are. We lost this with Phillip Rivers as well, and where he was always a competitor but never got past that hump. And to have this happen to Justin Herbert, like, I could not imagine that. Yeah. That's why I'm like, he's honestly,
for you guys.
Yeah, he's honestly the truth for us. And if we don't protect him and we don't support him the best way possible, here we are going to be 25 years later again, hoping for at least another opportunity.
Damn.
So see, Jake was listening. He gets the Toyota reference. He gets it.
Mm-hmm. So real quick, man, before we wrap this thing up, I want to hear you guys' predictions, top to bottom.
I'm gonna go Broncos #1. We're just coming in hot. It's our year. We're taking it back. Just like when Peyton came in, where lightning's gonna strike twice, right? No, yeah, but I mean, I got Broncos going 1. After that, I'd say Chiefs. And then it's a toss-up between the Chargers and the Raiders. It could go either way.
Go ahead, Jake. I know you got something to say, so I'll go last. I know you would find
Jake was just waiting to see when Chargers were going to get said.
Well, here's what's funny. I got a double whammy with this one. So I got one Bronco fan from here. So now I'm a little curious of what the other Bronco fan has to say.
I honestly, if I had to absolutely put it right now, I would put Denver at the top, just 12-5, and then I would probably have the Chargers at 2 at 11-6, and then Kansas City as well, but in third at 12 at 11-6 as well. And like I said, I just don't know enough about the Raiders to trust them enough to be better than the other 3 teams right now. But, I mean, I definitely like what the Chargers are doing. I feel like they're a lot more solid team overall than Kansas City is, because we all know that they have defensive issues. And in today's game, you just can't have that. And, it sucks to bring it up because part of me is also a Buffalo fan for my mom because she's part of the Mafia. But if Kansas City doesn't win that coin toss, Kansas City never gets to the championship round. So, I mean, at this point, it seems like the Kansas City playbook has been exposed. If you can limit them once or twice, you can air it out on them. They've shown that, and they haven't really shown enough to me to show that they are going to be better. So that's why I have them third. I have the Chargers second, and because I'm a homer, I have to have my team first. But that's how I would put it.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, because, I mean, to me, you're not only just looking at somebody who's been a longtime fan of the Chargers, but the content that I do bring out as well on my personal show, I'm all about sports, and I'm all about reasonable, unbiased, and balanced opinions because, you look at these teams and you want to give the best takes possible, and that's what I'm about is great content. So to me, I've looked at this division and I can honestly tell you, this isn't just fan-based stuff. This is stuff of studying teams, what their strengths and their struggles are, and where they may finish up. Because a lot of times, like every saying, it ain't about how you start the race. It's how you finish it. I think this year there is an awful lot to prove in this division. But I've got the Chargers breaking the Chiefs' streak of the division winning title at 12-5 with a ceiling of at least 13-4 and a floor of 10-7. Because this team here, they've really upgraded, and I'm very optimistic because there's a reason why. In 2010, this team had the number one offense and the number one defense, and they missed the playoffs that year. This is where I'm very optimistic about that, and I'm like, I can't give my hopes up that high. But understanding and knowing that they brought back all the familiar pieces with extra new key additions, a newly reshaped defense, this team looks legit. I think if the cards are right for Denver, because we have heard a lot of them so far in training camp, but I'm not disregarding Russell Wilson at all. I do think he is a very big competitor, which is what Denver needs. And to really utilize all their offensive strengths, and not to mention to a really great defense with having Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb. I think this will be an interesting Denver team. I have them at number 2 because I do think that there is a jump to them. Number 3, you got to go with Kansas City because I don't think at all Kansas City is even going to skip a beat. They're going to try to, at the very least, either compete with the division or they're going to strive to get themselves into the wild card spots. And then lastly, you have the Las Vegas Raiders. Nothing against them, but I think you're absolutely right. You got to see how this playbook works with all of them. It has been 10 years since Derek Carr and Devontae Adams have really gelled since Fresno State. There is going to be some of that offense, and Josh McDaniels back as a head coach. I'm curious to see how this flows, but it's like we all said. Last year was something different, but this year, it's going to be a lot more harder competition knowing you have the AFC North, you have the NFC West, and several teams all around the AFC and NFC that you're facing off against that is going to be a lot tougher competition. But that's why I've told people, I said I've had 2 games in mind. The game against the Kansas City Chiefs, not in week 2, but the second time they meet them, that's going to be tough for them. And then the Battle of LA between the Rams and Chargers. That's where I'm like, that is going to set the tone right there, that if the first 7 games, they go 5-2, and then after the bye week and how that they play situational games, because they need payback against the Texans. They need payback against several other teams that they lost situationally, and that's where I think the Chargers are really going to favor best. So Chargers 1, Broncos 2, Chiefs 3, and the Raiders 4.
Well, it sounds like all you guys think that the Raiders should ask for their draft picks back for Devontae Adams. Sounds like they wasted their money.
No, honestly, they can keep spending that money all they want. I don't care for them. I never have. But I mean, especially being on a network like this, I try to be as unbiased as I can. I really do, But it's just like Jake was saying, there's so many unknowns. And to be fair, Denver, we've got our own unknowns that we have to deal with. But I like our unknowns better than Vegas is right now.
Sir, we don't do unbiased around here, really. I mean, I'm a Lakers fan, and I spent an entire NBA season calling the Clippers soft. So.
Fair enough.
But I wasn't wrong, so.
No.
I mean, I had to do is look at the pieces. You could tell that was going to happen. But yeah. So
well, it's like I like to have a little fun. It's like how I have a little bit of fun with the Raiders. I'm like, so you're going to rely on that silver and lac dust to really save your season. Interesting.
Not the black dust, but so everybody watching, we went a little bit more, tonight, just because I wanted to give y'all a chance to kind of meet everybody, get an idea of their personalities, how they think about sports, what the flavor is that they're going to bring. But we're going to try to keep it as short as possible, probably about 5 to 8 minutes, roughly. We'll see how that goes, but that's the goal, to kind of give everybody a chance, to get out what they need to say every matchup. Also have some fun. We may have guys that have more to say, give them the opportunity to maybe do their own video and send it to us so we can post that. So that way they can get, a little bit more content out there if they want. But I want to say thanks to everybody who came on tonight. Everybody who came on last week, and the guys will be coming on the next 2 weeks. And for those that couldn't make it, understandable. It's a different time frame from when we'll actually be having the show, which again, Cheap Pop McFoley style. It's going to be Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But just remember, everyone, we're the ones. Everybody else is the twos. It's that simple.
And to finish your Mick Foley analogy, right here on PlayColorSportsTalk.com.
I couldn't take it all from you, man. I had to leave you something.
Always so benevolent, man. Always so benevolent. Well, man, I appreciate all of our guests coming on. Real quick before we sign off. I mean, obviously, people are going to be able to find you guys on the NFL Matchup Madness when that kicks off. But real quick, tell people if there's somewhere they can find you right now, where is that at?
Well, I tell people this. You guys love sports, you guys love entertainment, and you love the best of both worlds. Well, there's one show in that specific category, and that's called the Snake Sports Talk Show. Not only am I just a Chargers, Golden Knights, and an Oakland A's fan myself, but I do talk a lot about sports, unbiased, balanced opinions of every news topic that comes in the sports world. I talk about it all, and you can find me everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. That's where you can like, follow, and subscribe to future and past shows as well to keep you guys up to date on what else I got to say, what's up on my mind to really get everybody all curious and even geared up for the brand new NFL season as well. So that's where you can find me, Snake Sports Talk Show, and of course at the home, the Spotlight Sports Network as well.
What's up?
Yeah, you can find me on all the social media networks too, the Facebooks, the tweets, the Twitches, all of those guys. No, but you can find us on Shady Sports Network. We try to cover mostly right now, all things football, from XFL to the NFL to the, American Football League. So we got football. We'll be jumping to basketball too, hopefully, next season. Shady Sports Network. Also, I do real estate too. You can find me at #SetSells catch us on Shady Sports Network, where we put out shows pretty randomly. We don't have a set schedule right now, but you can find us. You can find our shows. You can find our articles, our interviews. We just love sports, man.
What's up, man?
And real quick, man, just want to shout out Sam Shady and Darian Hopkins, Shady Sports Network, Spotlight Sports. Those are two good guys. They're running good networks. And we're going to have Darian on throughout the season. He'll actually be covering those Raiders that y'all are all hating on.
Oh, I know.
We're actually going to show him this video and then let him make a video in response.
Oh, no, you can't do that.
Oh, no. Hey, listen, I will tell you, I love that man, and I've been working with him for years, and I know both of us always go head-to-head every time, so I'm not surprised at that. I'm like, oh, I'd love to see what he has to say now.
And Ian, I know you don't have your own show right now, but we're looking forward to you starting your Hall of Fame career right here on the NFL Matchup Madness.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, trying to get into media school, so you see all these guys with their fancy podcast mics and everything like that. I'm going off my little computer camera right here, and it's working great right now. But obviously, hopefully you guys have enjoyed everything and look forward to sticking around and making this grow. And obviously, once I have my own networks up and everything, or if I collaborate with people, I'll gladly let y'all know.
For sure, man. And appreciate y'all tuning in. For everybody that's watching, appreciate especially all the people that stay tuned in this entire time. And I've been seeing the numbers up top. People aren't really in the chat too much tonight, but I see y'all watching, so definitely appreciate that. Much love. Make sure if you haven't already, please like this video because that lets YouTube know. Quick shout out to our sponsors, Fanatics and EVMux. Get the affiliate links down in the description. So if you're planning on buying some sports gear, make sure you use that link. Give a little support to the show. And EVMux, if you like the way this show looks, that's EVMux. So go ahead and try you out a free trial of that. Guys, got your own shows. Y'all should definitely do that. So quick shout out to our sponsors there, and we will see everybody back next week. And as always, I like to give my co-host the final word.
It's real simple, man. Football season is upon us. What else do you need to say?
Acknowledge it.